Hi, you guys. Today we're going to read the story of the Prodigal Pumpkin. This is a great book. It starts like this. Once upon a time, there in a small country village, there was a great pumpkin patch filled with thousands and thousands of special pumpkins. There were small ones and big ones, short ones and tall ones, round ones and not so round ones, white ones and bright orange pumpkins. Pumpkins were everywhere. The farmer who cared for the pumpkin patch was a kind old man. He took great pride in his special pumpkins. He loved them with all his heart. His name was Farmer Dale. Farmer Dale did everything he could to take care of his pumpkins. He kept the ground free of weeds. He kept away critters that might hurt them. He watered them every day. He also loved to walk through the pumpkin patch, whistling a happy tune as he watched over his garden. So here he is taking care of them in this top picture here. You can see Farmer Dale. Everybody knows that pumpkins are grown for one great purpose: to bring joy to the lives of little children at Halloween. Farmer Dale knew the day would come when many smiling children would run through his pumpkin patch, searching for just the right pumpkin. He looked forward to Halloween every year for this very reason. The pumpkins knew why they were growing too, and for the most part, they were excited about putting a smile on the face of a little boy or a little girl. So you can see that little girl is very happy about getting her pumpkin. One day, as Farmer Dale was walking through the pumpkin patch, a pumpkin named Pete began to complain. Pete said, "I don't really like children. They giggle and they jump and they run too much. Why should I make them happy?" Pete was a sad and grumpy pumpkin. He didn't even like Farmer Dale. He didn't appreciate all the good things the kind old farmer always did for his pumpkins. He looks pretty grouchy too, doesn't he? The other pumpkins tried their best to explain to Pete how good Farmer Dale was and how much he loved them. They tried to make him see how great it was to be a pumpkin made for kids, but Pete would not listen. The more the other pumpkins tried to help Pete understand, the madder and the meaner he got. Pete wanted to get as far away from Farmer Dale and the pumpkin patch as he possibly could. He wanted to be on his own, and he never wanted to see another giggling child again. Yeah, pretty grumpy looking. So, one summer day, Pete decided to take off. He left the pumpkin patch and he went to a faraway land where there were no farmers and absolutely no children. Free at last, he thought. Now I can do whatever I want without that farmer bossing me around. Many days and nights went by and Pete began to feel lonely. He began to miss Farmer Dale's kind whistle. He even started to miss the wiggly children and the joyful smiles. With each passing day, Pete grew sadder and sadder. But Pete was too proud to admit he was wrong and too stubborn to leave the pumpkin patch and his friends. He was alone and afraid, and it was dark on the inside. Then one day, something strange and wonderful happened. Pete was sitting alone on the corner of a dark and scary street when suddenly he heard a very familiar sound. It was the sound of someone whistling, a sound he'd heard many times before. It was Farmer Dale, searching in the dark for Pete. And in the old farmer's hand was a glowing candle. As Farmer Dale came closer to him, Pete could see the glow of the warm light on the old man's face. It was the face of love. And Pete was so happy to see his long-lost friend. When their eyes met, Pete saw a smile on the farmer's face. A smile that reminded him of the goodness of the farmer. Yay, I just love that part. As Farmer Dale got closer to Pete, There was no anger in his gentle eyes, only love and kindness. The old farmer knelt down next to Pete in that cold, dark street and simply said, "I love you, Pete, and I forgive you. Are you ready to come home?" Pete was so ready. He was sorry he'd ever left the farmer. He was sorry he'd been mean and stubborn and proud. He was sorry he'd made Halloween all about himself instead of about bringing happiness to others. All Pete wanted now was to be forgiven and to be back with Farmer Dale and his friends in the pumpkin patch once again. Farmer Dale washed Pete clean of all the dirt and grime he'd gathered while he was away. Then the farmer did the most amazing thing Pete had ever experienced in his entire life. He put his warm and glowing candle into the heart of Pete and gave him the light of life. Just look at how happy he is and the glow. So cool. There's a lesson in the store for all of us. It's a simple lesson, but it's very true. Just like Pete, we have been made for a special purpose, every one of us. Just like Pete, we've all been stubborn and proud. Just like Pete, we've turned our backs on our Creator God and walked away from Him. And just like Pete, we too are lost, lonely, afraid, and dark on the inside. So God came looking for us. He sent His Son Jesus to offer us forgiveness, happiness, and His light of life to live within us. God's light comes into our hearts when we ask Him to forgive us for all the wrong things that we have done. Every time you see a pumpkin, remember Pete. But most of all, remember the love and goodness of God that can live inside of you and bring the brightest of lights. The end.